Hi, folks. Welcome to the 8th of December. So, we've been reading through the Christmas mystery, and yesterday, Joachim almost got caught holding that piece of paper. He had it so tight in his hands, and he didn't want Mama to see. And she said, a Christmas gift for her? Yeah. Well, I guess in a sense it was, because he's hoping to share it with them, isn't he? So, that's where we left off yesterday. So, the 8th of December. Oh, I should show you the picture. 8th of December. I don't know. Does this mean we're getting a shepherd? Does this mean we're getting a sheep? I don't know. That's the picture that Joachim's going to see when he opens the calendar. All right, let's read and find out. All right. Part of the glory of heaven that has strayed down to earth. Okay, someone's going to say that somewhere in this chapter. That seems to be what happens, isn't it? Let's read. On the 8th of December, Joachim was woken by Mama. Okay, is she going to find out about the papers? I don't know. She ruffled his hair and said, "Time to get up, Joachim. It's 7:30, and you start school early today." He drew himself up in bed. The first thing he thought of was the magic advent calendar hanging above his head. Mama seemed to read his thoughts. "But you have time to open the advent calendar." Oh no, Joachim thought quickly. He thought so quickly that there was room for an awful lot of thoughts before Mama went on. "Aren't you going to open it then? I'd like to see it too." No, thought Joachim. He couldn't open the magic calendar while Mama was watching. I don't think you're properly awake yet," Mama went on. "Perhaps you'll let me open the advent calendar today." No, said Joachim so loudly and clearly that Mama jumped. I'll wait till I come home from school. I'll have more time then." He jumped out of bed quickly to be quite certain Mama wasn't going to start opening the calendar. "Oh, of course, you do just as you like," she said. She went out to the kitchen while Joachim got dressed. Oh, that was close. When Joachim came home from school, a man he did not recognize was standing outside the garden gate. Since he didn't know the man, Joachim pretended he hadn't seen him. He opened the gate and closed it after him. "Excuse me, is your name Joachim?" asked the stranger. Joachim stopped on the path that Papa had almost cleared of snow and turned towards the man. He was quite old. He looked kind, too. Joachim didn't like someone he didn't know to know his name, but he had to answer. "Yes," he said, "that's me." The man nodded. He came right up to the gate and leaned over it. He was wearing a green felt hat. "Ha ha! I thought so." He had rather an odd accent. Perhaps he wasn't Norwegian. "You've been given a fine advent calendar, haven't you?" Joachim gave a start. How did he know that? A magic advent calendar, said Joachim. Magic advent calendar, yes. Price 75 or. My name's John. I sell flowers at the market. Oh, Joachim stood stock still without saying anything. In his Advent calendar, he had read about people who had suddenly seen an angel. Now it was almost as if he was being visited by an angel himself. He knew this meeting with the flower seller was important, and he wanted to say something serious, but he only managed, "How did you know where I lived?" John chuckled to himself. "Good question, my boy. I often go into the bookshop. You see, I like it there. I wanted to hear where the old calendar had ended up. It was a good thing your father forgot his driving license. If he hadn't, it would have been much more difficult for me to find you. But I expect you'd have come down to me on the market sooner or later. Don't you think so?" Joachim nodded. He had thought of it. Did you know there are some pieces of paper in the Advent calendar?" he said. "If there's anyone in the whole world who knows, it must be me. Now you know too," said John. Is it homemade?" Joachim wanted to know. "Completely homemade, yes, and very old. But that's an old story too. Have you opened the calendar today?" Joachim shook his head. "I have to do it when Mama and Papa aren't looking because, well, I don't want them to know about the pieces of paper yet. I'm going to pack them up on Christmas Eve and put them under the Christmas tree." "Oh, that's a good idea," said John. "But what about yesterday then? Didn't the pilgrims take a sheep with them from the old castle on Finn? And the angel Ethereal had to say, 'Be not afraid,' to the sentries at the castle?" Joachim was almost scared because John knew all about it. Did you make the Advent calendar?" he asked. "Yes? No?" Joachim was afraid that he might go, so he quickly asked another question. Did it really happen? Or did you just make it up?" John looked serious. "It's all right to ask, but it isn't always so easy to answer." Joachim said, "I wonder whether Elizabeth in the magic Advent calendar was the same as the Elizabeth whose picture was in the bookstore." "Oh, so he told you about the old picture too?" "Yes," said John, sighing heavily. Well, I have nothing to hide any more then. I am too old for that now. But it isn't Christmas yet, so we'd better talk about Elizabeth another time." John took a step back. "Sabbat Tabas," he mumbled to himself. Joachim didn't understand that, but perhaps he hadn't been meant to hear it. Finally, John said, "I must go now, but we'll meet again, for that old story links us human beings together." And he walked away rapidly and soon disappeared. Joachim was annoyed that he hadn't had time to ask more questions. He ought to have asked whether the big calendar picture was gradually changing as he read the pieces of paper. He hurried into the house and opened the door with the number 8 on it. Today, there was a picture of a shepherd carrying a lamb on his shoulders. Joachim picked up the paper, smoothed it out carefully, and began to read. Jacob. On one of the last days of the year, 1499 after Christ, 4 sheep, one shepherd, one king of the Orient, one angel, and a little girl from Norway flocked out of a boat that had brought them across the little belt to Jutland. Thank goodness, exclaimed Caspar as they stepped on land. Yes, it'll be a long time now before we have to do that again, replied Joshua. The angel Ethereal nodded. Verily I say unto you that there will be only one more time before we get to Bethlehem. Elizabeth had no idea what they were talking about. Isn't it still terribly far to Bethlehem? She asked. Oh, yes, indeed, said the angel. It is far, and many hundreds of years to go. But there's only one more stretch of ocean to cross, and that won't happen until we get to the Black Sea. The little procession came to a town at the inner end of the fjord. At one end of the town stood a large fortress. This town is called Kolding. And is in the South Jutland, said the angel Ethereal. It has been an important trading place for hundreds of years now. The fortress is called Koldinghus, and the kings of Denmark have often lived here. The time is 1488, so 1488 years after Christ's birth. Joshua struck the ground with his crook and said, "To Bethlehem, to Bethlehem." They came to the top of a little ridge with fine views over the countryside. Fresh flowers were growing everywhere, so it must have been early summer. Elizabeth pointed down at the ground as she ran. "Look at all the lovely wild flowers," she said. The angel nodded mysteriously. "They are part of the glory of heaven that has strayed down to earth," he said. "You see, there's so much glory in heaven that it can easily spill over." Elizabeth pondered over the angel's words and hid them in her heart. Suddenly, the shepherd stopped and pointed at the little flock of sheep. "A lamb is missing." He needed to say no more, for all of them saw that the earth seemed to have swallowed up the lamb with the bell. "Where is it?" exclaimed Elizabeth. "The lambs are so charming with their white fleece that they're a delight to the eye, but they're almost uncontrollable," said Joshua. "It doesn't always help to put a bell on them either. If I'm watching one lamb, the other will suddenly vanish. And when I find the second lamb, all of a sudden the first lamb will decide to leave the flock. Shepherding is a difficult job, and it's especially difficult to herd a flock of sheep all the way to Bethlehem. As it is written, now I must leave the other sheep to look for the one lamb that is missing." Elizabeth felt her eyes fill with tears. But just then a man appeared over the crest of the ridge. He was wearing clothes exactly like Joshua's, and on his shoulder he was carrying the lamb with the bell. "Ah, he is one of us," said Ethereal. The man put the lamb down at Elizabeth's feet. He held out his hand to Joshua and said, "I am Jacob the shepherd, and the second of the shepherds in the field. Now I can help care for the flock that's going to Bethlehem." Elizabeth clapped her hands. Joshua struck the ground with his crook and said, "To Bethlehem, to Bethlehem." The two shepherds ran behind the little flock, with Caspar, the Black King, the angel Ethereal, and Elizabeth behind them. As they were passing the old market town of Flensburg, the angel Ethereal said, "The time is 1402 years after the birth of Christ. We shall soon be crossing the frontier into Germany and diving down into the depths of the Middle Ages." Ooh. Joachim stood lost in his thoughts. The angel Ethereal had said that the wild flowers were a part of the glory of heaven that had strayed down to earth. Because there's so much glory in heaven that it can easily spill over. Probably only a flower seller could write something like that. He didn't tell Mama and Papa that John had visited him. If he told them about if he had told them about that, he would have had to give away the secret of the scraps of paper too. Joachim now had so many secrets to keep that he felt his head would split at any moment. The 9th of December. This is a really interesting picture for tomorrow. It's a piper, and he's got an animal in his hat. Wonder if it's a mouse. I wonder if it's the Pied Piper. Ooh, we're going to have to wait till tomorrow because that's for the 9th of December. So many mysteries as we wait and see, and Joachim opens the pictures for us. It's just that we got a sneak peek at tomorrow's picture. All right, I will say bye for now, and we'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye, y'all.